Hey there, and welcome to your personalized deep dive. We're going to be cranking up the brain power today, exploring how to think smarter, not harder, right? You've clearly got that hunger for knowledge. So we're diving into John C. Maxwell's How Successful People Think.
Now, this isn't some self-help fluff, okay?
Yeah.
Maxwell, he spent over 40 years studying the minds of high achievers, right? CEOs to entrepreneurs, and he's basically distilled their thinking habits into a framework that anyone can use.
And the really intriguing thing is that Maxwell starts with a pretty bold premise. He argues that the biggest difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't just boils down to one thing: how they think.
So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart. And that starts in your head. Like Maxwell is kind of handing us the keys to a mental Ferrari. But can everyone drive a Ferrari?
That's the thing, right? It takes effort. Maxwell doesn't sugarcoat it. Changing your thinking habits, it's like training for a marathon, requires dedication. Practice, but the payoff, as you can imagine, is immense. Okay, so we're not talking about some overnight transformation, more like building mental muscle, a mental gym membership, if you will. But what kind of workout are we talking about?
Well, Maxwell lays out a framework, a sort of mental training ground, if you like. He talks about finding specific places for each stage of your thinking process.
Places. Okay, that sounds a little abstract. What does he mean by finding a place for your thoughts?
It's about creating the right mental environment, really. For each stage of the thinking process, Maxwell literally talks about physical places, like his thinking spots have been cars, planes, even the spa, but it's really about finding what works for you.
So finding your mental sweet spot. Does that mean I need to book a flight every time I want to brainstorm?
Not quite. It's more about identifying the conditions that, allow your mind to really open up. Maybe it's a quiet corner in your house, a walk in nature, or even listening to a specific type of music.
Got it. So tailor-made mental environments. What kinds of places are we talking about here?
Maxwell outlines 5 key places. A place to think your thoughts, a place to shape them, a place to stretch them, a place to land them, and finally, a place to fly them.
Okay, let's break those down a bit. What does it mean to land a thought, for example?
It's about moving from the realm of pure ideas to, concrete action. Think of it as a reality check. Maxwell emphasizes the importance of first landing ideas with yourself, making sure they align with your values and goals. Then it's about bringing those ideas to key stakeholders, those who can help implement them.
So it's like taking a thought from concept to blueprint to actual construction.
Exactly. And flying a thought. That's all about execution, putting those ideas into action in the real world.
I love that imagery. It's like watching your ideas take off and soar. So we have these 5 places to cultivate our thinking, right? But how do we actually start thinking differently?
That's where Maxwell's 12 thinking styles come in. He's giving us a whole toolkit of mental approaches to play with. It's not about forcing yourself into one style, but rather, having a variety of options to choose from, depending on the situation.
Like having different lenses for your mental camera. And you've picked out a few styles that seem especially relevant to you today.
Exactly. We'll start with big picture thinking.
Now that sounds right up your alley. You're always looking for that broader perspective, trying to make sense of the chaos.
Well, Maxwell would argue that big picture thinking is crucial in our information-saturated world. It's about seeing the forest for the trees, discerning what truly matters, and prioritizing accordingly.
So instead of getting lost in the weeds, we're zooming out to get a clearer view of the landscape.
Precisely. Remember that famous quote, "You have to think anyway, so why not think big?"
No, who said that?
That was Donald Trump. And while he might be a controversial figure, the sentiment rings true. Big picture thinking encourages us to expand our horizons and dream bigger.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate this big picture mindset?
One technique Maxwell highlights is intentional listening. It's not just about hearing words. It's about actively seeking out diverse perspectives, especially from experts in areas where you lack knowledge.
So it's like being a knowledge sponge, absorbing wisdom from those who have already climbed the mountain we're trying to scale.
And it connects beautifully to Maxwell's idea of living fully, you see. Big picture thinking isn't just about work or achieving goals. It's about embracing the richness and variety of life itself.
So expanding our mental horizons and our experiences. But what about when we need to laser focus on, a specific task or problem?
That's where focused thinking comes in.
Now, this one really resonates with me. I'm all about maximizing efficiency and minimizing distractions, which, let's be honest, is a Herculean task in today's world.
Well, Maxwell would agree. He sees focused thinking as the antidote to distraction. the art of directing your mental energy like a laser beam. He even shares a story about Dan Cathy, the president of Chick-fil-A, who schedules dedicated thinking time into his calendar. We're talking half a day every 2 weeks, a full day every month, and even several full days per year.
Wow, that's serious commitment to thinking time. Clearly, this guy understands the power of focus. But for us mere mortals, where do we even begin?
Maxwell emphasizes the importance of identifying and eliminating distractions. That might mean silencing your phone, turning off notifications, or finding a quiet workspace.
So it's about creating a mental sanctuary where our thoughts can, flourish without interruption.
Exactly. It's also about understanding your own peak mental times. When are you most alert and focused? Guard those hours fiercely.
Okay, so big picture thinking for the broad view. Focus thinking for laser-sharp concentration. What's next in our mental toolkit?
Let's talk about creative thinking. This one seems tailor-made for you, with your love of aha moments and fresh perspectives.
Oh, I'm all ears. Tell me more. I always struggle with coming up with original ideas. How do I tap into this creative wellspring?
Well, here's a fascinating insight from Maxwell. He doesn't believe in pure originality. He argues that true creativity often comes from combining existing ideas in unexpected ways. It's about playing with possibilities, making new connections between seemingly unrelated concepts.
So it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about taking existing wheels and building something completely new.
Exactly. And Maxwell offers some really fun, thought-provoking questions to jumpstart creative thinking. One of my favorites is, what's the hardest or most expensive way to do this?
Now, that's an interesting question. Asking that would definitely force me to think outside the box. But I think I'm ready for another tool, something a little more, let's say, contrarian.
Well, you're in luck. Maxwell has a whole chapter dedicated to questioning popular thinking.
Ooh, now that sounds dangerous.
It can be. Maxwell argues that blindly following the crowd, it often leads to mediocre results. He actually says, and I quote, "Unpopular thinking, even when resulting in success, is largely underrated, unrecognized, and misunderstood."
So sometimes the path less traveled is the one that leads to the most interesting destinations. I actually have a perfect example of that. Remember a few years back when everyone was freaking out after 9/11, afraid to travel. Well, Margaret and I. We decided to go to New York City. Everyone thought we were crazy.
That's interesting timing.
Exactly. Flights were practically empty. Hotels were half price. And we got the best seats in the house for the producers on Broadway.
Yeah.
A show that was usually impossible to get tickets for. Sometimes going against the grain leads to incredible experiences.
It certainly makes you wonder, what opportunities are we missing out on by simply following the crowd? It's like what we were talking about with big picture thinking. Sometimes you need to step back from the popular opinion to see things more clearly.
Absolutely. But I'm curious, does Maxwell offer any specific strategies for questioning popular thinking? I mean, It's easy to say think differently, but how do you actually do it?
Well, he encourages us to cultivate a healthy skepticism, to challenge assumptions, and to be willing to ask why, even when everyone else seems to have accepted the status quo. He also suggests seeking out diverse perspectives, reading books and articles that challenge your current worldview, and engaging in thoughtful conversations with people who hold different opinions.
So it's about being intellectually curious, constantly pushing the boundaries of our understanding.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears and talk about shared thinking. This is one of Maxwell's most powerful concepts, and I think it's particularly relevant for someone like you, who thrives on collaboration and connecting with others.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I've always been a big believer in teamwork, but I've also been in those, brainstorming sessions that go nowhere. What's the secret sauce to making shared thinking truly productive?
That's a great question. Maxwell emphasizes that shared thinking isn't just about getting more ideas on the table. It's about leveraging the collective intelligence of a group, right, to accelerate the thinking process.
So it's like having a team of mental athletes working together to cross the finish line faster.
Exactly. And think about some of the most groundbreaking discoveries throughout history. Marie and Pierre Curie in science, the Impressionist painters in art.
And don't forget the dynamic duo of John Lennon and Paul McCartney. The Beatles wouldn't be the Beatles without their collaborative songwriting process.
Precisely. Shared thinking not only accelerates the process, but also brings a level of maturity and perspective. That's hard to achieve. Solo, we all have our blind spots, our areas of inexperience. Even Maxwell himself talks about how he sought out the wisdom of more seasoned leaders early in his career, essentially paying them for their insights.
That's a great reminder that even the most successful people rely on the input of others. Yeah. No one has all the answers, but I'm still curious, how do we avoid those brainstorming sessions that devolve into chaos? Does Maxwell offer any, practical tips for structuring those shared thinking sessions?
Absolutely. He stresses the importance of having a clear agenda, knowing what you're trying to achieve before you even gather the group.
So no more aimless brainstorming sessions. It's about having a specific purpose, a desired outcome.
Exactly. And here's another critical point, getting the right people in the room. Maxwell suggests selecting individuals who are truly passionate about the idea's success, who are skilled at bringing out the best in others, and who have the experience and maturity to contribute meaningfully.
So it's about creating that perfect blend of passion, skill, and experience. It sounds like a recipe for success.
He also adds a thought-provoking business insight. Compensate your good thinkers well if you have people who excel at shared thinking. Make sure they feel valued and rewarded.
That makes sense. Their thinking is an asset to the organization. And like any valuable asset, it deserves to be invested in.
Speaking of investment, let's move on to another fascinating thinking style. Unselfish thinking. This one might seem a little counterintuitive at first, especially in the context of success.
Yep.
But Maxwell makes a compelling case for its power.
I'm all for being a good person, but how does being unselfish actually contribute to success?
Well, Maxwell argues that unselfish thinking isn't just about feeling good, it's about adding tangible value to the lives of others. It's about shifting from what's in it for me to how can I contribute?
That's a powerful shift in perspective. But doesn't focusing on others take away from our own goals?
Maxwell would say it actually amplifies them, he points out. That unselfish thinking leads to a deep sense of personal fulfillment. There's a certain joy that comes from helping others succeed, from knowing that you've made a positive difference in someone's life.
It's that feeling
Yeah.
of making a real impact, of leaving the world a little bit better than you found it.
Exactly. And unselfish thinking isn't just about feel-good moments. Maxwell argues that it also encourages other virtues. When you make giving a priority, it becomes easier to develop other positive qualities, like generosity, compassion, and kindness.
It's like a ripple effect of goodness. And I bet it creates a more positive and collaborative work environment as well.
Absolutely. And Maxwell shares a really inspiring story about Merck, the pharmaceutical giant, which developed a drug to cure river blindness, a debilitating disease that affects millions of people, mostly in developing countries.
I've heard about that. Didn't they give the drug away for free?
They did. Merck knew that those affected by river blindness couldn't afford the treatment, so they decided to make it available at no cost.
You talk about putting people before profits, but I bet it generated a lot of goodwill.
For the company. It did. Merck's generosity enhanced their reputation and brand image, proving that doing good can be good for business. But beyond the corporate world, Maxwell offers some practical tips for bringing unselfish thinking into our everyday lives. He suggests starting by simply putting others first, making a conscious effort to prioritize the needs of others over our own desires.
That can be tough sometimes. It's so easy to get caught up in our own little worlds.
It is. But even small acts of kindness can make a big difference. Maxwell also encourages seeking out situations where we can actively contribute. This could involve volunteering at a local charity, mentoring someone in our field, or even just lending a helping hand to a friend or neighbor.
So it's about taking those good intentions and turning them into concrete actions. What else does Maxwell suggest?
He encourages giving, quietly or anonymously, taking the focus away from, seeking recognition, and allowing us to experience the pure joy of giving without any expectation of something in return.
I love that. It's about the act itself, not the applause.
And here's a beautiful insight. The highest form of unselfish giving is investing in someone's personal growth and well-being. This could involve spending quality time with our loved ones, offering words of encouragement to a colleague, or simply being a supportive presence in someone's life.
It's about making those human connections that truly matter. I'm starting to see how unselfish thinking can be a powerful force for good, both in our own lives and in the world around us. But let's bring things back down to earth for a moment. What about when we need to focus on achieving tangible results?
That's where bottom-line thinking comes into play. It's about clarity, focus, and relentlessly pursuing measurable outcomes.
So this is about setting goals, making plans, and then taking action to
Got
achieve
it.
those goals. It sounds pretty straightforward.
It is. But there's a nuance here. The bottom line isn't always about financial profit. It can take many forms, depending on the context Maxwell uses. A fascinating example from the nonprofit world. Frances Hesselbein, who became the national executive director of the Girl Scouts of America back in 1976.
The Girl Scouts, what was their bottom line?
Well, at the time, the Girl Scouts was struggling. They were losing members, facing internal challenges, and even considering merging with the Boy Scouts. Hesselbein knew they needed to get back to basics to rediscover their core purpose. So, she asked some fundamental questions. What is our business? Who is our customer? And what does the customer consider value?
Pretty simple questions, yeah. But I bet the answers were profound.
They were. Hesselbein realized that the Girl Scouts' true bottom line was to help a girl reach her highest potential. Everything they did, every decision they made had to be aligned with that core mission.
That's a beautiful and inspiring bottom line. So, how did focusing on that core purpose transform the organization?
It gave them clarity and focus. They were able to say no to opportunities that didn't align with their mission, even when those opportunities seemed tempting. They restructured their organization to be more responsive to the needs of their members.
And I'm guessing they didn't end up merging with the Boy Scouts.
Not at all. Under Hesselbein's leadership, the Girl Scouts thrived. They regained their strength, grew their membership, and solidified their place as a vital organization for girls and young women.
That's a powerful testament to the power of bottom line thinking.
Yeah.
But how can we apply this concept in our own lives, whether we're running a business, leading a team, or simply trying to achieve personal goals?
Maxwell provides a clear framework. First, identify the one essential thing you're trying to accomplish. This is your bottom line, your ultimate goal.
And it needs to be crystal clear, no ambiguity.
Exactly. Vague goals lead to vague results. Once you've defined your bottom line, ruthlessly eliminate distractions and activities that don't contribute to achieving it.
So it's about laser focus, staying on track, no matter what.
He also stresses the importance of regularly measuring your progress against that bottom line. Are your actions moving you closer to your goal? If not, adjust course.
It's about accountability, making sure you're on the right path, and making necessary adjustments along the way.
And finally, celebrate victories along the way. Achieving those milestones, those mini bottom lines, builds momentum and keeps you motivated.
Bottom line thinking is all about clarity, focus, and relentless pursuit of the goal, it sounds like. A winning formula to me. Now, before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear what Maxwell has to say about ethics. It seems like ethical thinking is becoming more and more important in today's complex world.
You're absolutely right. And Maxwell dedicates a chapter to what he calls Ethics 101. It's short, but powerful chapter. And he makes a strong case for why ethical thinking is essential for lasting success.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Well, Maxwell emphasizes that ethical thinking isn't just about avoiding bad behavior. It's about proactively choosing to do what's right, even when it's difficult. It's about having that inner compass, that moral grounding.
It's about being someone people can trust and respect, someone who consistently walks the talk.
Exactly. And Maxwell connects this directly to success. He argues that ethical behavior builds trust, strengthens relationships, and ultimately enhances your reputation.
Makes sense. If you're known for being shady or dishonest, it's going to catch up with you eventually. But does Maxwell offer any specific guidelines for developing this ethical mindset?
He does. He starts with the classic golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. It's a simple but profound principle that stood the test of time.
It's amazing how much wisdom is packed into that one sentence.
It also emphasizes the importance of honesty and integrity. Your word should be your bond. And finally, he encourages us to take responsibility for our actions. Don't make excuses. Own up to your mistakes and learn from them.
It's about accountability, both to ourselves and to others. So ethical thinking is not just about being a good person. It's also about being a successful person.
Precisely. Maxwell believes that ethical behavior is the foundation for sustainable success. It's about building a reputation for trustworthiness and integrity, which ultimately opens doors and creates opportunities.
I love that perspective. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored Maxwell's 5 places for cultivating thought. We've delved into several of his 12 thinking styles, and we've even touched on the importance of ethical thinking. It's clear that Maxwell offers a comprehensive approach to thinking smarter and achieving greater success.
He does, and there's so much more to explore In his book, he dives deeper into each of the thinking styles, provides additional examples and anecdotes, and offers practical exercises to help you develop these mental habits.
It's like a mental gym membership with a personalized training plan.
Exactly. But before we wrap up, I want to highlight one more crucial concept from Maxwell, thinking for a change.
Okay, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Well, Maxwell argues that in today's rapidly changing world, our thinking often becomes stale and outdated, limiting our potential. He challenges us to embrace change as an opportunity for growth and innovation.
So instead of resisting change, we should welcome it with open arms.
Exactly. Maxwell encourages us to become lifelong learners, to constantly seek out new knowledge and experiences that will challenge our assumptions and expand our thinking.
It's about staying curious,
Yeah.
keeping that mental agility, constantly pushing the boundaries of our understanding.
And it's also about being willing to let go of old ideas and beliefs that no longer serve us. Sometimes we cling to the familiar, even when it's holding us back.
It's about being open to new possibilities, even when they feel a bit scary. But how do we actually cultivate this mindset that embraces change? Does Maxwell offer any practical suggestions?
He does. He suggests surrounding ourselves with people who are different from us, who have different perspectives and experiences. This exposure to diversity can shake things up and spark new ideas.
Well, no, it's about stepping outside of our comfort zones and engaging with the world in all its complexity. What else?
He also encourages taking calculated risks. Trying new things, experimenting, even failing sometimes can lead to breakthroughs that would never have happened if we'd played it safe.
It's about embracing the journey, knowing that growth often involves a bit of discomfort.
And finally, he reminds us to celebrate change when we see it as an opportunity for growth and progress. We're much more likely to approach it with enthusiasm and a positive attitude.
I love that perspective. So thinking for a change is all about embracing lifelong learning, challenging our assumptions, and being open to
new possibilities. It sounds like a recipe for a fulfilling and successful life.
It certainly is. And before we wrap up, I want to touch on one last point that Maxwell emphasizes throughout his book, Today Matters.
Okay, that sounds like a great note to end on.
It is. Maxwell reminds us that we only get one shot at this life. We should make the most of every opportunity.
It's about living with intention, purpose, and a sense of urgency.
He encourages us to set goals, to make plans, and to take action each day. That moves us closer to our dreams.
It's about turning those dreams into reality, one step at a time.
He also emphasizes the importance of prioritizing relationships and experiences over material possessions. Because at the end of the day, it's those human connections that truly matter.
Maxwell's message is a powerful reminder that life is a precious gift, and we should savor every moment. It's about choosing to live each day with intention, focusing on what truly matters, and making the most of the time we have.
It's a powerful message.
Yeah.
And a great reminder that we have the power to, shape our lives. One thought, one decision, one action at a time. But before we get too philosophical, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the 12 thinking styles. We've only scratched the surface of a few of them, and I'm curious to hear more.
Of course. Which one piques your interest?
Well, you mentioned something called strategic thinking. I'm always looking for ways to be more effective and efficient in my work, and that style sounds particularly relevant.
You're spot on. Strategic thinking is all about planning for the future, anticipating challenges and making decisions that align with your long-term goals. Maxwell, he describes it as the ability to see the big picture and the details at the same time.
So it's like having a mental GPS that guides us toward our destination, while also helping us navigate the twists and turns along the way.
Exactly. Maxwell emphasizes that strategic thinking is essential for anyone who wants to achieve significant success. It's about being proactive rather than reactive, about shaping the future rather than simply responding to it.
That makes sense. But how do we actually become more strategic thinkers? Does Maxwell offer any practical advice?
He does. He suggests starting by clarifying our values and goals. What do we truly care about? What do we want to achieve in life? Once we have a clear understanding of our destination, we can start to map out a strategic path to get there.
So it's like setting a course and then charting a route that takes into account, potential obstacles and opportunities.
Exactly. Maxwell also emphasizes the importance of gathering information. Strategic thinkers are constantly seeking out new knowledge and insights that can inform their decisions.
It's about doing your homework, right?
Right?
Understanding the landscape
Yeah.
before you make any major moves.
Precisely. And Maxwell suggests asking a lot of questions. He believes that the quality of our thinking, it's directly related to the quality of our questions.
So don't be afraid to ask why or how or what if. Challenge assumptions, explore different perspectives, and dig deeper to uncover the root of the issue.
Exactly. And Maxwell reminds us that strategic thinking is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. We need to constantly evaluate our progress, adjust our plans as needed, and be willing to adapt to, changing circumstances.
So it's about being flexible and agile,
Yeah,
ready to pivot when necessary.
precisely. Now, let's switch gears and talk about a thinking style. That, I think, is particularly important in today's world. Possibility thinking.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is possibility thinking, and why is it so crucial today?
Well, possibility thinking is all about seeing the potential in every situation, about believing that things can be better than they are now. It's about having an optimistic outlook, even in the face of challenges.
It sounds like the perfect antidote to cynicism and negativity,
Mm.
which seem to be running rampant these days.
It is. Maxwell argues that possibility thinking is essential for creativity, innovation, and problem solving. When we believe that things can be better, we're more likely to come up with creative solutions, to take risks, and to persevere in the face of setbacks.
So it's about having a can-do attitude, believing that anything is possible if we set our minds to it.
Exactly. And Maxwell points out that possibility thinking is contagious. When we surround ourselves with people who are optimistic and hopeful, it rubs off on us.
So choose your company wisely.
Absolutely. And Maxwell offers some practical tips for cultivating a possibility thinking mindset. He suggests starting by focusing on the positive, on what's working well in our lives.
So it's about shifting our attention away from problems and toward solutions, from limitations to possibility.
Precisely. He also encourages us to dream big, to imagine the best possible outcome in every situation.
It's about giving ourselves permission to think outside the box, to envision a brighter future.
Exactly. And Maxwell reminds us that possibility thinking requires action. It's not enough to simply dream of a better world. We need to take concrete steps to make it happen.
So it's about turning those possibilities into reality, one action at a time.
Precisely. Now, I want to touch on one more thinking style that I think is particularly relevant for someone like you, who thrives on personal growth and development, reflective thinking.
I'm all ears. What is reflective thinking, and how can it help us grow and evolve?
Reflective thinking is all about taking time to pause, step back, and examine our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. It's about asking ourselves tough questions, seeking feedback from others, and being willing to learn from our experiences.
It sounds like a crucial part of self-awareness and personal growth.
It is. Maxwell argues that reflective thinking is essential for continuous improvement. When we take the time to reflect on our experiences, we can identify areas where we need to grow, develop new skills, and make positive changes in our lives.
So it's about turning our experiences into valuable lessons, using our past to inform our future.
Exactly. And Maxwell emphasizes that. Reflective thinking is not just about looking back. It's also about looking forward. It's about using our insights to set goals, make plans, and create a vision for the future.
So it's a cyclical process of reflection, learning, and action.
Precisely. And Maxwell offers some practical tips for cultivating a reflective thinking mindset. He suggests setting aside dedicated time each day for reflection. This could involve journaling, meditation, or simply taking a quiet walk in nature.
It's about creating space for introspection, for those aha moments to emerge.
Exactly. He also encourages us to seek feedback from trusted friends, family members, or colleagues sometimes. We need an outside perspective to help us see our blind spots.
It's about being open to constructive criticism, recognizing that we don't always have all the answers.
And Maxwell reminds us that reflective thinking is a skill that can be developed with practice. The more we engage in this type of thinking, the more natural it becomes.
It's like exercising a mental muscle, strengthening our ability to reflect and learn.
Precisely. And the benefits of reflective thinking are well worth the effort. It can help us make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and live more fulfilling lives.
I'm definitely going to make
Yeah.
a conscious effort to incorporate more reflective thinking into my routine.
I think you'll be amazed at the results.
Hmm.
Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into John C. Maxwell's How Successful People Think, I want to leave you with one final thought.
In all ears.
Maxwell reminds us that the way we think shapes our reality. Our thoughts influence our emotions, our behaviors, and ultimately, our outcomes. So if we want to change our lives, we need to start by changing our thinking.
It's a powerful reminder that we have the power to create the life we want, one thought at a time.
Exactly. And Maxwell provides us with the tools and strategies we need to do just that.
Well, there you have it, folks. We've taken a deep dive into John C. Maxwell's How Successful People Think, exploring his framework for cultivating a successful mindset, his 12 powerful thinking styles, and his emphasis on ethical thinking and personal growth. It's clear that this book is a treasure trove of wisdom and practical advice for anyone who wants to, level up their thinking game and achieve greater success in all areas of life.
It is, and I encourage you to pick up a copy of the book and explore Maxwell's ideas in more depth.
Absolutely. And as you go about your week, I want to challenge you to try out one of Maxwell's thinking styles. Experiment with it, see how it feels, and notice how it impacts your decisions and actions. You might be surprised at the results.
And remember, thinking smarter is a journey, not a destination. It's about continuous learning, growth, and evolution.
So keep those mental muscles flexed and keep striving to become the best thinker you can be.
Until next time, keep thinking brilliantly.